This was a piece where Piers Morgan played a video of a trans athlete in high school being booed after coming in first. Being booed. A trans high school student being booed. You know, they're people, right? Like, I guess I just want to, if there are transphobes watching, like, you do know that, like, trans people are people. Like they have feelings, they are bullied, they bleed, they feel bad about themselves, they strive, they train. You know, they're like, I just wanted to make sure we're like, we know they're people. Now, Piers Morgan's like, I have a daughter who's about the same age. She's in high school. And if she were trans and came in first, I would want them to boo her. That's the kind of fucking brainworms we're talking about. And speaking of HHS, literal brainworms. This is the kind of like pathology, is if my kid were trans, I would want them to be booed for having the audacity to excel in any sport. Okay? So that's after this happens. Now, Piers Morgan has come equipped with a list of athletes, famous male athletes, that he wants to ask me, the resident lib, whether or not if they transitioned, which was very important to say, that I would allow them to play in whatever sport. And he thinks he's got a gotcha. Now, here's the problem. This is a bullshit premise. This is a bad faith premise. When he's coming with his list of who I would or wouldn't, what am I supposed to do as someone who thinks that, sure, if Messi tomorrow put on a skirt and said, I'm a woman, simply as, like, let's say he did it as an anti-trans gag, right? Or not, or maybe whatever. Would I be like, nah, I don't know about that. You know, have you done hormones? Have you been on hormones for like 3 to 6 months? What are the regulations of U.S. women's soccer? You know, is there any kind of bar or testing, whatever it is, right? That's not the answer you should give. You shouldn't give an answer like, well, I mean, if Messi, who I guess does kind of have some effeminate characteristics, were to, you know, do an estrogen regimen for, you know, 6 to 12 months, then I would definitely be okay with them, you know, with her, I guess at this point, playing for U.S. women's soccer. Like, that would be okay with me. That's not the answer. But if Usain Bolt were to do it, I mean, I probably wouldn't allow him to do it. Or like Michael Phelps shouldn't be allowed to swim in women's swimming because his ankles go back in the opposite direction. So I guess I would say, like, yes to Messi, no to Usain Bolt, and probably also no. Like, that's not the answer you should give. This is a right-winger who is a raging transphobe who thinks that trans women in women's sports is bigger than a $4.5 trillion tax break going to the ultra wealthy, while if you were in the lowest income bracket in the United States, your taxes will be going up thanks to Republicans. He thinks that trans athletes are a bigger threat to women than Andrew Tate and his fucking brother coming back stateside, right? And I know Piers Morgan himself, like, doesn't like Andrew Tate, but he has him on for the clicks. Nah, man, this is a whole straw man debate. So my thing is, fuck your straw man. Okay, yeah, absolutely. I support someone's transition. If you want to transition, I support you. Okay? Like, I'm not saying you're a good person, right? We all know Caitlyn Jenner. I'm not saying you might be a good person. And by the way, I don't believe in dead naming Caitlyn, even though I don't like her politics. I wouldn't go that far when it comes to punching down on evil people, speaking of making fun of RFK Jr. So this is what he asked me, and so this is what I said. Because exactly, it's a fucking red herring. So I'm not going to be there and be like, well, I don't know about that. I'm saying yes. He wants a yes or no answer, right? I'm saying yes. Anything else looks like you're capitulating.
Women's national team. In other words, when it wasn't possible for that person to take her position. Because here's a scenario for you. Lionel Messi puts his hand up and says, actually, I'm feeling like a woman today. Do you play him in the American women's national team, Francesca? Yes or no?
Lionel Messi had to undergo an incredible...
Yes or no?
He had to undergo an incredible amount of treatment when he was young. He had a bunch of like...
Would you allow...
so this is me actually answering because I like Messi, and Messi had to do a lot of hormones. Messi had tons of hormones. He had growth hormones specifically because dude was stunted in his growth. I didn't get that out fully here. So this is me trying to be like, Okay, but let's talk about Messi because he had to do a lot of hormones in order to even be the player that he is. Sometimes you need hormones and you need treatment. You could call it gender affirming care. Maybe Lionel Messi got gender affirming care. Does that make him a trans person? But here we go.
Him to put his hand up, say he's a woman,
for him
and play in the American women's national team. He had a growth
spurt. I'm a big Messi fan, but let me just explain this.
Answer my question. Would you allow him, if he said I'm a woman, to play in the American women's national team?
You're using the wrong pronoun
yes, right now. Hell yeah, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Messi on the U.S. women's national team? Hell yeah.
Would you allow Usain Bolt to do that and be in the sprinting team?
Yes, because that would mean they're a trans woman. They identify as women.
I get it. So just to be clear, you'd let Lionel Messi play in the...
Okay, then the other guy agrees with me. And so I was like, yes, if he transitioned and she is she, that's fine. Undergoing hormone therapy passes the bar. Whatever, again, whatever the guidelines are for that sport, I'm okay with that because I don't believe trans people should be barred from playing in any sport or being in any walk of life the way a cis person is.
Women's national football team and destroy women's football forever. You'd let Usain Bolt...
it'd be very difficult to get a ticket, which would suck.
I want to do a little checklist here. You'd let Usain Bolt compete as a sprinter in the American women's Olympic team?
Yes.
Okay. You would let Floyd Mayweather compete as a boxer in the women's American boxing team?
Yeah,
you are
you have to be like the heavyweight
lunatic.
I completely agree with I agree with Francesca, and I go further.
They would have to transition.
You always say that you want to be a penguin. I would let you live at London Zoo in a cage like the rest of the penguins.
You know what? I'd be a very popular exhibit.
So exactly. So he comes in armed with that. And it's like, oh, now we got you and we're going to use it in the cold open. You look so stupid. You look so dumb. You giving me hypotheticals and me changing my position based on your dumbass hypotheticals is a bad look. It's a bad look politically. It's a bad look morally. And it's a bad look argumentatively. But on all those things, like, I don't change my stances when something happens. When some fucking hypothetical happens, it's not going to make me change my stances, or just some story. One time I heard an undocumented person killed this woman. Therefore, every undocumented person should be killed. That's not how I roll. That's not how most progressives should roll. But of course, I made a mistake, according to Mr. Cenk Uygur, who was on former host of The Biggest Loser, Jillian Michaels' new show, where she offers lots of sound advice on how to be a perfect... I don't know what she talks about. I really don't care. I don't know. I don't care. But she makes her rounds on right-wing news outlets now. She has her little soft focus studio here. Cenk is looking quite soft focusy. And she likes to go on Piers Morgan. And about a few days ago, I think it was Friday, had a fun little moment with Sam Cedar where she basically laughed in his face that there were people who were dying because of USAID cuts. And there are people who are dying because of USAID cuts. But that's okay, because they're from brown countries. Nobody cares about them. So this was Cenk, and my man talked about me. He talked about me. He invoked my name. One of our hosts. First of all, I've never been a full-time host. So once again, one of our mercenaries. But let me just caveat this by saying, don't ever speak for me. Don't ever use me. We are not the same. We've proven this many times over. We are not the same. We don't come from the same cloth. And so I would like you to don't claim you sort of like, well, one of our hosts. There's no our. There's no our. This is not a weird... you speaking for Anna, you guys are the same person, Tweedledee, Tweedledum type situation, okay? I am a me. You can call me by my name. My name is Francesca.
So some on the left, one of our hosts, Piers Morgan, asks her, so are you okay with Leo Messi playing in women's sports? And by the way, he said in the most extreme way, if he declared himself a woman tomorrow, even without hormone therapy or anything.
Doesn't work. First of all, that's not what happened. You guys just saw what happened, right? He said, if Lionel Messi tomorrow, he didn't say without hormone therapy. I said, if he transitioned, caveat, if he transitioned, yes.
I'm telling you, I could give you 19 different studies that
Okay.
show it's
So-
not effective.
So first of all, my opinion is, are you nuts? Like if you put Messi in, he'd score 20 goals a game. If you put LeBron in the WNBA,
Right.
with or without hormones, he'd score 200 points a night.
Okay. I'm sorry. This is full disclosure here. I like men's soccer. Okay. I watch men's soccer and I don't support women's soccer as much as I should. I just want to be honest with that. Okay. I just gonna be completely 100%. Like I've seen, like I haven't seen a Galaxy game, but I'm not a big sports person, number one, but I love soccer. I love Argentine soccer, especially. I like the World Cup, all that. I have watched US women's champions. What are we, 4, 5-time champions? Nobody fucking cares. Every time the US women's soccer team wins yet another World Cup, we don't talk about it. We don't herald it. We judge them because they, did something against Trump or they knelt for the national anthem. That's the only time we talk about women's sports, or because we want to make Caitlin Clark some sort of, white damsel in distress against a bunch of black, WNBA players. That's the only time we talk about women's sports, is when we're trying to be low-key racist or sexist about it. But the idea that Lionel Messi would score 20 points, 20 goals if he played in the US women's team, like what? Like a friendly, is bullshit. I'm sorry. Like do you know how many points are scored in soccer generally? Do you understand how they work? I'm not saying he wouldn't do well. I could see him getting like 6 off 20. What do you like? This is like so stupid. Like, who do you think the women's team are? Do you think like female athletes just aren't good athletes? Because I'm starting to feel like you think female athletes aren't good athletes.
Okay, and I've read the studies. They always say, "Oh, there's studies," and they never read them. Then they got to the absurdity of Floyd Mayweather going into women's boxing if he declares himself a woman. Do not say yes to that. Do not say yes to that, because they're going to hurt someone. And when they do,
Right.
you're going to lose the country even more.
100%.
Then you're not protecting trans rights. You're walking them backwards.
Oh my God. So imagine, guys, if I had said, yes, I think Messi should transition. And I think that, Usain Bolt could transition and play in women's sprinting. But I don't think Floyd Mayweather. And I was honest about that. I've said before that I should have said the joke, Floyd Mayweather shouldn't transition because he's hit enough women in his life. And that was a total missed opportunity. But if I was like, yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. Yeah, not Floyd Mayweather. I mean, okay, but just not in boxing. Like every other sport, but like not boxing. Because like women are like fragile and stuff, and like they can't do that. What would it look like as someone who believes women are absolutely capable of boxing? What would it look like as someone who absolutely believes trans people should play in sports? What would it look like argumentatively to say 3 out of the 4 examples you are bad faith lobbing at me, I think could play as a trans woman, but this 4th one shouldn't? Cenk thinks I should have not said that? Like, that's so fucking dumb. On every level, that's dumb. It's morally wrong, it's argumentatively wrong, it's politically wrong. And we're talking about a hypothetical. And this is the problem, is like, there are people, and I think like John Idarola, our good buddy, is one of them, who we argue this, and I don't take this tack. We argue this tack on, hey, you're using a hypothetical for a population that is about, 0.3% trans athletes, right? We're talking about less than a percentage point. Why are you distracting us with these issues? Why are you throwing up these hypotheticals? This is all meant as a massive distraction and as a way to dehumanize, a population. Like that's a fine way to take it. But where I take it is, nah, man, I stand with trans people being able to play in sports. I see that you're doing a bad faith hypothetical, but I also stand with them. Even if you weren't doing a bad faith hypothetical, I would still stand with them. Do you know what I mean? It's a 2 different tacks here. So, but Cenk thinks that no, we gotta give them a win because then they're gonna stop coming. If I say that trans women shouldn't participate in collegiate or higher level of sport, they're gonna stop there. They didn't. They just didn't. Trump's executive order applies to all people. When we're talking children included, we're talking about high schools, we're talking about elementary schools. This is all people. These are the athletic bans that are coming down in red states across this country. They are for all. Specifically, they're focused on children. So Cenk's line up until this point has been, no, it's at the collegiate level and above. I think once you get to the college level and above, that's when it's bad. So he would be on board with what the NCAA said recently. But you're so dumb. You're so dumb. I don't even know how to explain this to you anymore. Unless, this is the other option, unless you also are a transphobe. You know what I'm saying? Unless you also are kind of a misogynist. Unless you also are like, yeah, man, men just kind of like can rock on women. You know what I'm saying? Like they strong and like Messi would score 20,000 points. Like this makes no sense. No one is giving you props. No one is giving. This is the same person who told me that as long as they're deporting the criminal undocumenteds, that's all hunky dory. Laughed in my face about there ever being any kind of detention camps. Hello, Guantanamo. Capitulates to the right-wing framing that Venezuelan gangs from Tren de Aragua are taking over everywhere and we've got to get rid of them. Meanwhile, they're innocent Venezuelans being held in Guantanamo right now. What has it got you? What did it get you? When you go and fucking share a stage with Dr. fucking Phil, what did it get you? Nothing. You know why? Because you look like a bitch. You know what I'm saying? You look like a bitch. That's what it is. Like, that's just what it comes down to. You don't look like a fighter. You don't look smart. You look like a bitch. That's just the reality. I've tried to tell it to you nicely. I've tried to tell it to you cordially. I've tried to tell it to you on your show, on my show, on every show. And so either you A, are a bitch, or B, you actually agree with the right. And I'm starting to think, in fact, I do think it's the latter. And again, it's okay to be a centrist. It's okay. And this is the final point on all this. The final point on this is something that Anat Shenker-Osorio said yesterday. I had her on my show explicitly because after this election, I think a lot of us have been racked with this idea, it's like, and we've been told it's the woke left and that's the problem. And they just wanted so much and they're so mean on Twitter to me, specifically in my mentions, right? And something that Anat said, let me read it to y'all. The job of a good message isn't to say what's popular. It's to make popular what we need said. And she also said, and I said this yesterday, that the right is very good, not at messaging to where people are at now, but where they're capable of going. And they have. Because the right, why would anyone be okay with mass detention centers or surveillance for your political beliefs or stripping away a 75-year right like abortion rights, causing women who are miscarrying to be criminalized, causing them to die of sepsis? Why would anyone be okay with that? Why would you be okay with the cruelty that we're seeing that is ripping families apart when it comes to deporting law-abiding people? It's because the right has been grooming. Why would we be okay with a felony president who is now above the law, capturing all of the federal government's whatever wealth it had left, destabilizing Social Security and giving it to the richest man in the world? Why would we be okay with that? It's because the right has been grooming us for decades to be okay with authoritarianism. The right has been grooming us by telling us that Biden is the one who's going after his political enemies so that they can go after their political enemies. The right has been grooming us by telling us that trans people are weird and they shouldn't be participating on all these different aspects of life so that hate crimes can happen to trans people and we don't talk about it. The right's been grooming us on this idea that women are seeking abortion at 9 months and that they're killing babies after birth in order for it to be okay for women to not have this fundamental right. They groom us for these ideas. And they win. And that's why we are where we are now. And so the job of a good message and a good movement isn't to meet people where they're, to say what is popular, but it's to make popular what needs to be said. And what needs to be said is that trans people are people. They're just people. Trans people should not be barred from any aspect of life. Why? Because they're people. That's it. That's what needs to be said. That includes trans athletes, that trans athletes should. Good for you, man. I don't have the discipline. I don't go to the gym. I really don't. I try to, do my yoga, do my Pilates. I'm not on like a low carb diet. I woke up this morning, made pancakes. All right. That's right. On a Wednesday. What's up? Good for you. You're an athlete. That's it. That's what needs to be said. And so it's okay that trans athletes aren't popular right now, that it's that people feel weirded out by them. But it's the job of progressives and the left to make popular the idea that trans people are just people. It's our job to make popular the idea of universal health care, single payer, the government pays for it. It's our job to make popular the idea that renewable energy is free. It comes from the sun, it comes from the wind, and we can save money by investing in it. It's our job to make popular the idea that everyone should belong to a union because your bosses don't love you. Your work will never love you back. That is our job. And yet unionization in this country is at an all-time low. So if unionization is at an all-time low, right? It's meaning it's not popular, or according to the mind melt of a centrist like Cenk, why should I advocate for union rights? Although TBD on where he stands on all that. We have to actually stand for something, unless you don't. And if you don't, then get out of the game, man. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room.